Hey, it's Mazzy, and welcome back to the channel. This is an independent video because I'm showcasing an independent label, a beautiful label. It does amazing, not only musical reissues, but artwork, because they're also a printing press. And this is Independent Project Records and Independent Project Press, parallel companies that do two things really wonderful and put them out for you. Now, in the next week or so, I have a handful of independent records that I've ordered directly from artists and Bandcamp, and that'll be a separate video. It's going to combine them, but I think these I'm showcasing 5 albums that came out over the last year from this label, and I think they deserve it. Now, Bruce Lisher was the creator of this label in the early 1980s. He started a press and a label. He was a musician. He played with Camper Van Beethoven. He played with a handful of other musicians and bands over the years. And one of these records is a solo record by him, which he kind of gets out into the electronic world. I'll showcase that in a little bit here. But I want to go back 40 years first, because I didn't follow this label all along, but every time I'd see their records, I'd see the beautiful tactile quality of their record covers and their packaging. The first album I got from 1985 was Camper Van Beethoven's. Now, this is not the first press. In fact, the first printing looks like this. This is a recent Record Store Day cooking vinyl where they sort of recreated that craft paper type of cover, and it's a beautiful record. Of course, recently I showcased Camper Van Beethoven and Cracker and David Lowery's a series of records and his new solo record, but this is the first one out of Santa Cruz, California. Of course, originally was a collaboration, or soon after the first collaboration, with Rough Trade out of the UK. This is the probably second or third printing, I'm not quite sure, but they do change the color concept here, as you can see. But obviously the first one is the way to go, or this reissue that came out for Record Store Day out of Cooking Vinyl Records. But that sort of sets the tone for what I'm about to show. Now, a lot of the music that they put out really kind of crosses over into this indie, and indie is one of those catch-all phrases. Of course, it's literally in the name of this record company and this printing company, but it is that. Remember, in the late 1980s into the 1990s, when record companies majors were diving into compact discs, it was the independent artist, the punk artist, the post-punk artist, along with some audiophile labels that kind of really hung on to vinyl and vinyl pressing. Of course, so many punk bands were pressing singles, and I could go back to things I have of the band Devo, and before they got picked up by Warner Brothers, and a lot of records beyond that too, that would press singles on their own, selling at shows, selling directly via mail. But Independent Project Records, started by Bruce Lisher, is one of those great labels that still thrives today. Again, a combination of the printing business and the record-making business, and working with an array of independent artists that cross over from post-punk to psychedelic to folk, more on the freak folk side, to ambient, to electronic, to really kind of shoegaze and deep dark music in some cases. Although I find a lot of their records here have good sort of melodic overtones, with a few exceptions here. And not that that's better, but in terms of what I've been attracted to and what I like here. So I'm going to show I think it's 5 records from the last year from the Independent Project record catalog. One that's coming out right as we speak. And I'm going to start with that one. And it's Jeffrey Running's Peaked. Now, Jeffrey Runnings was the primary songwriter, lead singer, and bass player for Four Against, kind of a shoegazed, hook-based band, a little bit of a dream pop thing, and their records were reissued or issued by Independent Record Project over the years. And this is a posthumous release. He died earlier this year, of cancer. And these are really stripped-back recordings that he recorded at home. And there is some of that, some of it is instrumental, kind of a mood piece. There are some kind of really good melodic vocals, again, in that lo-fi, shoegaze, dreamy feel to it. And I tell you, I need to showcase the visuals of this. Even though I always say it's about the music, stupid, to me the design is so important here. Again, my history as a photo agent, combining art, photography, illustration, and good design is paramount in my taste for these records. And that's another reason I like the physical format and vinyl opposed to streaming. And I think this label, they also do CDs. So I am going to put a link below to this label, because I don't know how many retailers get their music, get these records out there. So if any of these pique your interest, literally pique your interest, look to the link below and check out their catalog, because they do not only vinyl, they do CDs too. And some of these records really have CD counterparts, and some of them actually come mixed together. So if you're a vinyl guy and you also are into CDs, you'll get some CD and digital downloads out of some of these records and some of these recordings. They all come with these interesting obies, like obviously the side obies. They come in the Japanese style sleeves, which I'm not a fan of, but I know so many people that love those because they keep the records intact and pristine. But to me, I'm going to slip this in a normal sleeve because I don't want that opening up with that little sticky stuff. And I get it. And I think initially it's a great way to get these when you first get them, because they keep everything intact. And this is like origami, literally, and it's so beautiful. And I love the tactile side of it. I mean, there's always that cliche, we like records because we're touching them, and it's tactile along with the music. These are, some of the stuff is lo-fi, but some of the stuff is really cool. So if you're a fan of everything from psychedelics to indie folk to electronic music to ambient music, all these records sort of have different elements of that kind of music. Some more than others. Some are more rock in your face, and some are more pull back. But I just love the obies and these type of things. Light in the Attic does it as well too, and the Numero group, because you can read exactly what this record is about, what the music is about, so you get a feel about this. Posthumous release. There's also a celebration of the artist's lifelong quest for sound, stripped to the bones, and all the more powerful and cathartic for his restraint. A lot of these records have these kind of flaps here. This is like a printing promo thing. Look at the different metallic inks, the letterpress printing on it. Beautiful, beautiful packages. So this has this craft opening. These are straight black with a beautiful labeling on it. Again, a 2-record set here. An extra bonus of art cards, of art that this artist worked on. Beautiful separate art cards and postcards. So the nice thing about this, we all liked, when we were growing up in the 70s and 80s, when a record came out with posters and stickers and all kind of ephemera slipped in, the additional inserts is something that collectors to this day, I just showcased Moby Grape, and to get that first record with the poster is something you really want. This has a little booklet inside that tells about the music, so you get a nice little overview here. A lot of components in these records. The cardboard insert has printing on it, and just every little thing, the attention to detail in the artistic side to this. And look at these little detail illustrations here. Now, I will say, I'm thinking, which one was this? One of these records, forgetting which one it was, the second disc is like an EP, a 45 RPM EP. I'm going to forget which one it is right now. And I played it all the way through and really loved it. And part of it was instrumental, but on the last track, I believe, on the first side, the vocals came in. I realized I was playing the entire thing at 33 RPM, even though when I looked on the label, it said 45. But I take these out, and I expected the second one to be 33 like the first one, but the second one was almost like a bonus EP. But once I played it, it actually worked at 33, but I did play it at 45 after that. Now, this is one of my favorites that I'm going to showcase here. But again, this is the one that's more upbeat, in-your-face, rock and roll, post-punk, that has a really darkness to it, like a Bauhaus or a Gang of Four, and that is Faces to Hide, Chronicles of the LA Post-Punk Pioneers After Image. I had heard of After Image, but I never saw After Image. They had a very short career. I think they only released some singles and EPs, and then there's some live tracks on here. So in theory, this double album contains everything you can get. And any of you are into the LA post-punk scene of the early 1980s, you need to get this one. 22 tracks of urgent, explorative, gripping, and raw post-punk on double vinyl. Includes an 8-page booklet with photos, extensive history essays by Richie Underberger, San Franciscan. He's the guy that writes liner notes and essays. I've seen his presentations on classic rock artists. Great writer. And he lived on the street I lived on McAllister Street in San Francisco way back. I think he's still there, actually. But Faces to Hide chronicles the LA post-punk pioneers. This is a really good record. And the live tracks are really well recorded considering what this is about. But this has that, again, that Bauhaus feel to it. Again, Gang of Four. And I kept thinking of Morphine as well. Morphine with that baritone sax. Faces to Hide has this wonderful metallic typeface finish here on the cover and also on the back. And of course, again, another flap like the first one with these beautiful photographs. Like it seems to be a spot metallic varnish. I'm going to embarrass myself with my lack of description of printing processes, but honestly, craft paper again. I love this. I love the consistency. You know, I've been a fan of labels that have a consistent look too over the years. Now, sometimes you want everything different, and you know, so obviously artists have a certain vision that they have. Some artists recreate covers and styles all the time. Some labels, 4AD, Von Oliver, V23, the 4AD releases had a certain style, a certain design style, and I love that. But this opens up, you get your card here with a little, again, a download code here, so you can get this, the music on your download. You also have a booklet, and this has that Richie Underberger essay in it, and it has wonderful pictures and essays of the band. Again, this is a band I had heard of, but I didn't know the whole history, and this is probably the record out of all these so far I've played the most, but this is when you want something a little more upbeat. The other ones are a little more introspective, I think, at least for me. But I love this record and the release of it. A couple of demos and rehearsal things, a cover of Submission, the Sex Pistols track on here. But again, I love that saxophone thing that adds to it, as I said. You know, a little reminiscent of the Morphine and the saxophone in Romeo Void. But they're more, again, in the, you know, Joy Division would be a good comparison. In this case, it's two records again. They all have their custom labels. After Image, Faces to Hide, a double album. Basically, as far as I know, everything that they've recorded is on these two things. So if you're a fan of the LA punk scene, that's highly recommended. Now going in a slightly different direction, something that's a little more melodic, a little more Beatlesque, a little more Badfinger-esque of the demo type of stuff. And this is a complete trio album that originally came out in 2008. This is the third album by Springhouse. You know, this is, again, another band that I heard of, but I'd never heard their music. This is freshly expanded with a bonus CD filled with previously unreleased demos and live tracks. From Now to Okay. Find Springhouse infusing acoustic folk rock indebted nuances to their dreamy sonic palette. How's that for copywriting, right? But that tells it. That is what's great about these sort of Obies on here. And this includes a bonus CD with live tracks and demos. So there's a lot of value in here on these records. Again, the Obie on here. Now this one's a little different sound. This is not the flap up thing. This is almost like the Unipacks. Remember the Unipacks in the day? In fact, it's pretty much exactly like that. Now you do get the extra CD in here. So those of you that want digital copies, you know, for your car or for your home digital setup, this is nice to have. This, I haven't listened to their CDs yet. I've only listened to the records several times each. It has like a cut insert here with the, again, the record in poly sleeve with a beautiful custom label there. They do have a little Beatle-ish vibe, you know, but so many bands post-Beatles have are saddled or are compared with the Beatlesque sound. They do have a little bit of that folk sound. You could compare them to a little Nick Drake too as well. But this trio from New York, this is a beautiful record, their third record. I don't know their other records. Now I want to check them out. So this is Independent Project Records release Springhouse, From Now to OK. A really delightful record. This is probably the most commercial of the records in this series here from the Independent Project record label. Now this is Bruce Lisher's. Again, Bruce, remember Bruce? I talked to him at the top of this video. He is the musician that played with Camper Van Beethoven and other bands. He started this printing company. He started this record label. He did several other solo records, which I haven't heard. But this one is his most recent. I believe this came out in the last year. And this says, a new solo album from the Camper Van Beethoven and Monks of Doom guitarist. Underwater Detection Method finds Greg Lisher reinventing his own approach to music making. The songs were here first written on a keyboard and self-produced with strong focus on synthesizers. So this is nothing like a guitar record. This is an ambient electronic experimental record, you know, in the Brian Eno realm, a little bit of a lo-fi thing. Again, kind of a cool cover, a different type of thing than the rest. Again, not a craft paper, but a beautiful artwork on it. Electronic, ambient, UDM, basically underwater detection method. I think that's no coincidence. That's close to EDM and all those other things, right? A type of unipack. I love that little cut-in thing. Now, this is something that on the surface may seem slight, but you know how easy it is to kind of pull it out rather than digging in on those unipacks from the 1970s. Now, this has like this wonderful cutout. Again, the insert thing are the extra bonus. Obviously, the music here, you're going to get an ambient electric feel to this. Again, a bit of a lo-fi feel of it, but kind of an experimental thing that's kind of cool, kind of groovy. Can I use groovy? I haven't used groovy in a video for a while. Almost looks like cutout stamps here. Obviously, they're not lickable. I guess they would be, but they're not going to stick to anything. Underwater Detective Method. I love the little extras that they put in all their records. This is a photo of Bruce there, and you have the credits here and the song tracks listed here. Symbiotic consistency to this label, to the visualization of this label, but the music is all over the place, which it should be on labels. But again, you know, you can see the taste of the label and the taste of the experimentation. Again, neo-electronic, neo-psychedelic, all the neos you want of independent post-punk music. I mean, even when you think of Camper Van Beethoven from the start, from that kind of rock and gypsy Russian balalaika music, not really balalaika, but that kind of stuff, going to electronic, going into the post-punk, more rock and stuff in the early 80s as well. But really cool stuff. So this is a cool record as well. I believe this came out earlier this year or late last year, I forgot exactly. And lastly, submitted for your approval, a massive 3-record set. Tracks from the Attic, David J. Again on this beautiful craft. Look at that cover silhouette image. Now, I think most of you, if you don't know his name, know who David J. is. He was a founding member of Bauhaus and Love and Rockets. So we all know the brooding gothic sound of Bauhaus, and then maybe the next step with the rest of the band, except for, aside from Peter Murphy, forming Love and Rockets and creating something a little more melodic hooks of that 80s sound. I love Love and Rockets. I like Bauhaus too, but for some reason, again, I like the melody side of things. And what's interesting about this, these are recordings, solo home demos from 1984 to 2004. Now, these weren't demos, really, of Love and Rocket songs or Bauhaus songs. Of course, it was after Bauhaus. These are just folk songs that he recorded on tape recorders in his attic and on the road occasionally over the years. And these are mostly folk records, some very beautiful melodic things. They range and vary in terms of the quality of the recordings. Again, demos, not to be released, but we have them released now. And it's really kind of a cool thing. We hear his beautiful, lightness to his voice, which I always liked his vocals on Love and Rockets. The founding member's skill as pop singer-songwriter in its intimate beauty. I tell you, the copywriter on these is great. I love it. 34 tracks, all previously unreleased. The Brown Craft Vinyl Version Edition of 850 numbered copies. Again, the removable obi. But look at this. Look at this beautiful package. I tell you, this is a killer design piece. This is 3 records. Each record has a separate fold out with the lyrics. So each record has that lyrical fold out. Then you have the record in the separate sleeve, in a brown insert, and in a polyline sleeve. And in my copy, I don't know if they're all like this, if there's black editions, but mine has this beautiful brown vinyl, colored vinyl. Look at that label. And the other side is a little different there. Look at that. Just beautiful. Volume 2. Look at this. And the second record has its own separate outer sleeve, separate inner sleeve, separate poly sleeve, and separate custom label. And I know I'm going out of order here because I've played this several times and all my numbers are not matching, but you get the idea. All 3 of these are separate trifold lyrical content, giving you an idea, giving you some wonderful lyrics of each of the songs, these demo songs that he wrote. But wait, there's more. You have another insert, stamp-like perforated cutouts. Nobody cuts this stuff out anymore. Remember when you cut out the Sgt. Pepper mustache? Or the Country Doing the Fish game? And I feel like I'm fixing to die? You kind of wish you kept that together, don't you? This has liner notes in here on the back of each perforated section here. Again, you have credits here, and you have an intro by David J. on here, a little kind of an overview there. It's kind of a nice extra thing. The CDs of all 3 records here. I suppose in this case, in this record, the David J. record, there are several editions. I'm not sure if all the editions have all the CDs and all the inserts and everything. Check it out at the site again. But it's kind of nice for me. I'm going to load this in. I put all my CDs on a hard drive, and I play them when I'm not playing vinyl in my office, things like that. So it's kind of nice not to have to buy a separate package here. But again, a beautiful design. So Independent Project Records is a pretty incredible independent outfit. Obviously, the Parallel Printing Company right next to the record-making company, a business run by musicians and lover of music. That's where it makes sense on this. When you talk about the audiophile labels that are run by people who love music, I respect that. Whether you like those kind of releases or not, I like supporting companies like this. So I urge you, check out the website, see if there anything interests you. You could stream a lot of this music to get a sense of what it's about. Check it out. I love that indiness to them. I like the aesthetic they have. I like the consistency they have. It kind of brought me back to this period, that first camper van album out of Santa Cruz. And I didn't quite make the connection initially. I've forgotten about the Independent Project Records out of Los Angeles. Something to check out. Enjoy the music. It is about the music, but art is such an essential part of this, the visualization, the visual art of these releases. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Mazzy loves you.